Hey guys, it's Charlene. If you were with me last week, you know that I put together a card using the new hot foil plates, the butterfly hot foil plates from Whimsy Stamps. So there are coordinating stamps and dies for those hot foil plates. Those were previously released. So today I wanted to show you a card using the stamps and dies and how awesome it's going to look. So you can see here I have stamped out the butterflies. I just love them. And I'm coming in with some Distress Oxides. I'm using Salvaged Patina and Peacock feathers as well as prize ribbon. And I'm just blending them together. This is a really super easy technique. You don't have to be very exact when you're doing this. You can see I'm going outside of the lines because I am going to die cut all of these. So you're just going to see that edge and it's not going to be a big deal at all. So once I have done my Distress Oxides on there, I let it dry and then I come in with an anti-static powder tool and some embossing ink, and I'm going to heat emboss these in black. Now to do this, you should leave your stamps in your stamping platform so that it's really easy. You can stamp once with ink, do the ink blending so you know where you need to do it, and then you can come back in and just stick your paper right back in your MISTI and ink up those stamps with the embossing ink. Super easy. I love doing it this way. And now I'm coming in with some super fine detail embossing powder in black. And I'm just going to coat all of those butterflies, and then I'm going to come in with the heat gun and heat emboss these. I love this look because it gives you the ink blending, but it also gives you the raised texture and shine of the added embossing powder. I think it looks really pretty for cards. Now you're going to see when I get done here, I overheated my embossing powder. And you will hear sometimes people say, well, you don't want to burn your embossing powder. They don't literally mean like it burns, like turns black and on fire or something like that. What they really mean is that it's overheated so that it soaks into the paper and kind of evaporates. Then you don't have that raised beautiful shine. Now, I am guilty of this. I have done this on occasion because sometimes I'm just worried I haven't melted it enough and I keep my heat gun on there too long. But one thing I always like to do, I like to leave my stamps in my MISTI until I am completely done, because you can go back in and you can see there, see it's not quite looking right. It's okay. It has some shine. It would be fine if you wanted to use it like this, but I'm going back in and I'm adding a second coat, and that's going to fix the problem right up. And no one will ever know that I messed up. Well, except for all of you guys. No one will ever know that I messed up the first layer and burned my embossing powder. So I'm coming in, I'm going to put that second layer on there, make sure I get it nice and coated. And then again, I'm going to come in with the heat gun and melt the embossing powder with the heat. So you could do this also by stamping in black pigment ink and then heat embossing with clear embossing powder. Depending on the look I'm going for, I sometimes like to do it that way, and sometimes I like to use the black embossing powder. I think the black embossing powder gives it a little bit more oomph, if that makes sense, because it just, the embossing powder is these little tiny micro kind of pellets of plastic essentially. And when you melt that and it's clear over black ink, yes, you're going to get the shine, but you don't quite get the same level of dimension because you're just looking through the clear embossing powder to the black ink versus looking at actual embossing, all of the powder being black that's been melted. So depending on what I'm going for, either way works really well. So now I'm using the coordinating dies, cutting out all those beautiful butterflies. I don't end up using the purple one, but I have it now and I can save it for another card. So I've done some ink blending off camera to match the same colors as that first butterfly, and I have cut out this super cute hello word and shadow. I cut the shadow out from black cardstock, and I cut the letters out from that ink blended panel that I did just a minute ago. Now I cut out 2 more layers of the shadow in black cardstock because I want the entire thing to be raised on my card. So oftentimes you'll see people cut out multiples of the letters because they want the letters to be raised. And I do that pretty much all the time on my cards. But you also can cut out multiple layers of your shadow to raise the entire thing up off of your card rather than just the individual letters. So this is kind of a fun, different look that you can do. And now I've cut out a piece of white cardstock, and I am going to use the same Distress Oxides to do some splashes on the card panel. So everything's going to be tied in together and color coordinated. And I'm just doing that by stamping a little bit on an acrylic block, and then I spray a little bit of water on there, and then I have my fan brush and I'm tapping it on my finger. Now, ideally, you want to do this in an area either that's easy to clean up, like I have done it here on my craft mat, or you might want to do it in a cardboard box. Now, in hindsight, I probably should be using my splat box for these kinds of things because then it's less work. You don't have to clean off your surface because your splat box is just meant to get messy. So it doesn't matter if you leave the splats there. All right, now I'm going to come in with some liquid adhesive and I'm going to glue that card panel to a piece of black cardstock so that I have a nice thin frame all the way around the card panel. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put my butterfly and my hello word on there. But you can see how pretty that splatter looks. It just creates a really nice background. You also could use some pattern paper if you wanted to. That would look nice as well. But this is just a quick and easy way to create a fun background on a card. Now you can see I cut my black cardstock so that it was about 1/16 of an inch from the edge of the white card base. And this is a mini slimline card. So it is 3.5 inches tall and 6.5 inches wide. And so I cut down, like I said, that black matting so that it would be have an edge of about 1/16 of an inch all the way around. And the same thing for the splashed card panel. I also wanted that same size border all the way around. So you can see I adhered my butterfly to the back of the shadow, and then I'm going to glue the entire thing down to my card. Sometimes I find that easier than going through and, adhering down the shadow and then trying to tuck something down behind it. It's just easier if I glue everything together, all my elements, and then go ahead and glue them down to the card. So you can see on the bottom right there, I put down 2 little embellishments, and up on the top left, I put 3 little embellishments. I am ultimately going to remove those because I changed my mind, the ones on the top left. So I'll show you that in just a minute here, how easy that is to do if you decide you want to put something different there instead. So I've used a white gel pen here, and I've gone in and colored in those tiny little dot areas just to add a little bit more interest to my butterfly. So here you can see I'm using a craft knife. That first one went flying. It took me a little while to find it later. It's a good idea to put your finger down on top of the embellishment while you are cutting it off with your craft knife. And you just kind of wiggle your way back and forth underneath there. Most of the time it is going to damage your card panel a little bit, but sometimes you can get it off without any issues. And I know some people use products like Undo or things like that, but I knew I was going to come back in and put these other 2 butterflies on the card. So I moved 2 of the embellishments and put them on the bottom left, and then I added actually a 3rd little embellishment on the bottom right. So now I am popping up my butterflies here with some foam tape, so they're going to have some dimension, and they're both popped up on the right and the left, and that's going to offset the butterfly in the middle that is down flat. So that's a thing that you can do. Here's my finished card, guys. I think it turned out really lovely. I think that embossing powder looks amazing. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me. Be sure to like and subscribe, as well as to hit that notification bell so that I can continue to bring you crafty content in the future. I hope you guys all find some time to get crafty today. Until next time, happy crafting.